And welcome to the Terry David Mulligan YouTube channel. I'm that guy. And it's Canada Day across this great vast nation of ours, from sea to shining sea, waving fields of wheat and beaver. And we celebrate it like other countries celebrate their national. They just get together, family, friends. You think about your country. You do. You celebrate it. And what better way to celebrate than to invite in front of the cameras two of the royalty in Canadian music circles, Jim Cuddy and Greg Keelor from Blue Rodeo. They've been partners for 40 years. They're going to celebrate that 40th anniversary next year with a Canada tour, coast to coast. They are being inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame. They were the instigators and one of the featured performers at the Gordon Lightfoot tribute at Massey Hall about 3 weeks ago. There's so many things we could be talking about, but basically that's it. Jim Cuddy has a new album out just now, his sixth solo album called All the World Fades Away. He's writing about friends, his father, family, relationships, his life. And it's very good. So the first half will be Greg Keelor and Jim Cuddy talking about Blue Rodeo. And then the second half will be Jim Cuddy talking about the Jim Cuddy Band and this new album. Enjoy. Happy Canada Day.
My name is Terrydavidmulligan, and this is Mulligan's 2 CKUA Radio. Everything's recording. Wow, wonderful. Because you only get a couple of chances to do this in a lifetime, to have Greg Keelor and Jim Cuddy on screen, on microphone, talking at the same time. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Soundboard.
That was very calming.
Can I just get a quick, how are you? Greg, starting with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. And how are you doing today?
I could use coffee. It's upstairs. I can't.
Oh, yeah.
More coffee. Jim, how you doing? Where you been?
Oh, I just had my 40th wedding anniversary was last Saturday. And so Rena and I were 3 days at Lake Louise, 4 days in Lake Louise, 3 days.
Wow.
It was fantastic.
Did you stay at the hotel?
No, first of all, I looked into it, right? I thought, I'm going to take her there. $1,700 a night, right?
Aye.
Yeah. So right away, that was out. So we went up, we rode our bikes up to the chateau. There are 5 million people up there. And the people are no longer allowed in the hotel. Like, they've got kind of a barrier around it, only registered guests. Plus, there was a crane. Like, you remember the area you stayed in? That area is being reconstructed. So there was construction. It would have been a nightmare. No, we stayed at the Post Hotel. It was so good.
What a wine destination the Post Hotel is. That's fantastic. Okay. Okay. Enough of this. Okay. Let's get on with the stuff that we paid big money for.
Okay.
Let's talk Blue Rodeo. First of all, congratulations that we're all upright and breathing. That's fantastic. Is next year the 40th anniversary of Blue Rodeo, or 50th?
Yes. 40th.
And what plans do you have to celebrate, or will you?
This is it, Terry.
This is it.
This is the big time for us.
Damn.
We don't have enough time to celebrate. We're too busy.
I think there are a lot of plans afoot. Well, yeah. Greg and I are not necessarily up on all the plans, but there are a lot of plans between the record company and our management, Susan and Jude. There's a lot of things that will go on. What those are, we don't know.
I would assume it would be driven by an album as well.
I don't think that's
Jim
the case.
Cuddy's solo record. That's how we're celebrating.
No, I'm tucking
40
my
years of Blue Rodeo.
I'm tucking
my. I gotta go. I'm sorry. This wasn't a good idea.
No, I'm tucking my solo record into 2024. So 2025 is clear for. We talked about making a new record, so I don't know, maybe. Right?
What do you think, Greg? Is there time? Are there tunes?
I think there's time, and I think there's tunes. So I think it's a good idea.
In the meantime, you're going to be busy. you have dates here, but I want to ask you about, first of all, Gord Lightfoot's night at Massey Hall. What were your memories of it? What are they now that they've settled a bit? What was it like, Greg?
Well, it was a little mind blowing, you know. The guests that we had up were all so good. They picked such great songs, and you know, for me, the we were talking about the mountains. I worked at the Shadow Lake Louise the winters of 74 and 75, 76. And that's where I learned how to play guitar. And one of the first songs that I ever learned was a Gordon Lightfoot tune. And so it was sort of a full circle moment for me. It was like from the origins of my music to playing in Massey Hall for Lightfoot's family and all these people just wanting to honor Gordon Lightfoot as what a incredible songwriter, singer, musician, arranger, producer, all around punk rock sort of dude. And so, yeah, it really blew my mind. When Alison Russell sang Black Day in July, I was sort of stupefied. It was just so powerful.
How about you, Jim?
Well, I think that it was, there was, I've done a lot of those kind of shows, tributes and gatherings. There was a commitment that everybody that was on that stage had to honoring Gordon. Yep. That I think was it really showed how highly he was thought of. And he was such an unusual character, right? And somehow he touched all of those people. Like they'd either through his music or they'd met him. And a short encounter with Gordon was pretty impactful. You get a lot in a short encounter. So, you always do those things and then you have a finale at the end. And we had the finale of Summer Side of Life. And often people that have participated in the show are long gone, right? They're out of there. They're back to their hotel, they're in their car, they're somewhere for dinner. This was everybody, absolutely everybody. So happy to be up there. I thought it was really moving. I thought, as Greg said, I think that the guests that we had were tremendous. They picked great songs. Everybody did a great job. And everybody that was in the first half that I watched was amazing too. So it was a fitting tribute. It was a really strong and dedicated tribute to a guy that has meant so much to Canadian music.
And who I think took for granted from time to time because he just kept spitting out hits one after the other, tours, whatever, always showed up. But I love the fact that while I waited for Gord to clear to do an interview with him, I'd sit with the band and the band would be saying the most caustic things about him. They just ripped him upside and down. Oh my God, it was amazing. It was so funny. All right. The other thing I've made note of is you've been about to be inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Songwriters Hall. What does it mean to you, Jim Cuddy?
I think that obviously Blue Rodeo has been very fortunate, and we've received a lot of accolades for our career and the things that we've done outside of our musical career. And we share those with all the people that we played with, and we share those with all the people that have worked with us, our management and our record company, et cetera, and our agent. There is something slightly different about Greg and I being acknowledged as songwriters, because we go back to before either of us had whiskers, and we go back a long way, and we were always interested in songs. We were always interested in writing songs, and learning the guitar was just a vehicle to write songs. Neither of us, I think, I don't want to speak for Greg, but I never wanted to be, Colin Cripps. I love the way that people play, and I really admire it, but that was never the thing that motivated me. Writing songs that was the thing that blew my mind. If you heard somebody sing a song of their own and I love it, I think, wow, that's an incredible accomplishment. So it's a very personal sense of accomplishment that I have from this particular accolade.
Greg Keelor.
Well, I've often been pretty flip about awards and things like that, right? And I just out of sort of nervousness, I had stock answers. I wouldn't join a club that would take me as a member, type of thing. Bad influences of the Marx Brothers, etc. But with this one, I guess maybe because I'm a little older, I'm a little more sentimental about it, and it really is a lovely piece of punctuation in our careers. It's just nice to be noted for the songwriting. And as Jim said, we were always motivated by trying to write better songs. We traveled down to New York for a few different reasons, but one of them was just to experience life, I think, at a different level, so that we would be resonating with deeper songs. And Gord was a big influence down there too. I can remember when I got Gord's Gold. Well, that was the reason why I wanted to leave New York. But listening to Gord's Gold, there was such a resonance in those songs. There was such depth in the living of his life. And just wanted to live at a deeper level to touch that part of the songwriting stream.
Oh that's heavy stuff. Sorry. I got to pull myself together. By the way, just an off thing, if you could name any songwriter to induct you, I know that somebody will, but if you could, in the history of songwriting, who would you want to induct you? Greg?
Leonard Cohen.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one.
Jim?
Greg Keelor, I think.
Nice. Very nice.
I wanted to, they want to do a little quote on the little statue we get.
Oh, yeah.
What are you going to say?
No, as soon as I saw that email, I thought, oh no, this is a big choice. What are you going to do?
I wanted to use a Leonard Cohen quote, but I don't think I'm allowed. I wanted to just say, you're living for nothing now. I hope you're keeping some sort of record.
Oh, that's pretty nice. You're not allowed to do somebody else?
I'm going to try.
Yeah, I don't know. I just tucked that one away in the to be.
What are you going to write?
Oh, I have no idea.
After the rain, after the rain.
Yeah, I'm just going to put rain, 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 rain. I'm so blue.
Can you, can you make a little musical note that it's in falsetto?
That'd be about right. So are you still there, Terry?
Oh yeah, and I'm loving this. Listen, I love an interview that lets the participants have the conversation. Greg, while I got you, Everyday Angels on the new Jim Cuddy Band solo album. You're doing the call and response voice in there. You're the choir. What did you suggest yourself as a choir, Jim? How did this come shape?
Well, Jim asked me to sing on his record, and he sent me the part that he wanted me to sing.
Yeah.
And, I had to improve the lyrics a lot. I couldn't sing a lot of what he said. It was a little, I could see Colin singing it, but I just couldn't sing it. But no, he sent me this beautiful part. And we differ on the interpretation of what my part is. I feel like somebody has just gone through a major life experience, like a huge epiphany, like after an acid trip or something, and they're sort of vulnerable and unsure of their footing. And I'm like the epiphany guide in it. I'm just saying, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, it's going to be all right. But Jim thinks that the voice that he wrote was a little more sarcastic in tone and sort of
perfect.
Mildly
hold on. Let me clarify. I think that the basis of what you're saying is right. There, the lead vocal, which is me, is the innocent, and yes, that person has been woken up to the beauties of the world, but still with a lot of reluctance to accept it. The Greek choir, which is you, is guiding that person back to full vision, but definitely gets a little impatient during the song. You know, it's like
in your mind.
No. I think if you say,
and as you well know,
when you say, I think that if, hold on a sec, my turn. When you say, you know, so whatever, I'm waking up, and you say, well, it's about time. Now it's about, that's a little sarcastic, or at least impatient. Well, it's about time. And, you know, or say, oh, there's a sunrise. And you say, it happens every day. Like by the third verse, you've had enough of the innocent playing the innocent.
I always appreciate the intentions of a songwriter. And, you know, but most songwriters will admit that once the song leaves them, then it's open to interpretation from whoever listens to it. And that's the beauty of a song, is that it's a different look at the gem than everybody else, and everybody sees something different. So okay. I think you have to relinquish your stranglehold on the meaning of your own song.
I totally agree with that. And I don't have a stranglehold on the meaning. I just thought I would explain what I thought the meaning was. But apparently that was to no avail.
I can't believe it's been 40 years, this conversation.
Well, you can see why Greg was the perfect choice to be the chorus.
It was very Beatlesque, by the way. A little Lennon McCartney in there like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I definitely tried to put a little bit of that Beatle love voice in it, you know.
Yeah, which was really nice.
Okay, listen, I'm down to business just for a second, guys, because you're coming to the Edmonton Folk Festival, which is where I'm going to see you next, and Canmore. But I mean, October the 30th, you're Jack Singer. Then you do another Freeze Your Ass Off tour, starting November 3rd in Red Deer, and then Lethbridge and Banff, and Windspear in Edmonton.
But that's all solo, right? That's not Blue Rodeo.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Terry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're just talking about the summer. We are coming.
Should I leave the conversation now?
Having just been in Canmore, the posters are everywhere. That's going to be fun. Have you ever played the Canmore Folk Fest, Greg?
No, I haven't.
You're going to love it.
I'm sure I will.
I mean, the Edmonton Folk Fest too, but it's really fun.
Greg, that's where you can go and see if the trees move like this.
Yeah.
And what is that relating to?
That's related to when I asked you, one of the first times I ever talked to you, I said, what you could do if you wanted to, you could sell out 5 nights at the Commodore, except you did 3 or you did 4. And then you went to Whistler. So I just wanted to go up there and see if the trees still moved like this.
Well, they do.
I think it was a reference to something else. Now, guys, I'm going to ask you a question. Where are we on the time? Okay, good. And Greg, I thought I told organizers, I said I don't want to ask the guy to sit there while we talk about Jim's solo album, which is why I'm letting you off the hook and saying you can go and have your tea and hang up and then we'll talk, or you can stay. You are more than welcome to stay. Okay, no. Maybe not.
I don't think you'll be comfortable with me staying the whole time.
Jim, thank you for that. And Greg, I appreciate it very much. Let's talk solo music. Greg, do you want to? You can go. And by the way, I just want to ask: are you working on a solo project? Before I go,
you, Greg?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call it a solo project. I'm always sort of recording and writing, and you know, I got a good crop of songs right now. It's sort of like, you know, a yearly sort of harvest, and I've got my friend Jimmy Boskill. He's got a nice studio over in Coburg, and I go hang out there and record songs with Jimmy and his genius buddies. And
there you go.
Just waiting for Jim to finish his solo career, and maybe he'll come back and play some songs with old Blue Rodeo for
Thank you for
every 5 years. Every 5 years I have to
every 5 years. It's on a cycle too. Everything is. 2 years before the cicadas rise.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. And thank you for sitting in with us. I appreciate it really a lot, a ton.
My pleasure.
All the World Fades Away, the title track from the new album, Sixth Solo. I want to thank you and the boys for welcoming Mike Campbell, by the way, back to his stage in Halifax. It was
oh my God, that was fantastic.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was really great. I mean, hearing about his accident was horrific, but it was really. He runs a beautiful thing there, right? The Carlton is a really deep music haven, and having him come back on that night, and we had it was a superb night, and yeah, that was a really important night, really nice.
How important is a solo career to you? Has it settled in you that you can have this sidebar life?
Oh, years ago. Okay. Years ago, it settled in that this was a good thing. I did this to begin with out of self-defense, because Greg went off to do Aphrodite Rose, and I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know whether he was coming back or not. It wasn't a particularly happy time in the band, and he went off with Pierre Marchand, made the record, and I thought, I think I better do this because I might be left here partnerless. And when I did it, when I made All in Time, 98, I thought, yeah, this is fun. This is good. It's nice to be the only person deciding, or the last decision maker, and not have to share the creation. I mean, I share it with Colin and certainly with Tim Vesely now, but it was just a nice thing to have on the side. That I could write songs that were perhaps a little more personal to me, not things that I would necessarily share with Blue Rodeo, and that I could have this and play, and just to have a little simpler, it's like, you'll understand this. It's like a second wine. It's like, it's not the first growth. It's the second wine.
It's not a piquette though.
No, it's just a nice, simpler thing. And Blue Rodeo can be a very big and somewhat complex and somewhat overwhelming enterprise. And so it's nice to have something that's just simpler.
It can also be powerful and carry its own weight and well earned.
I like to think so. Thank you.
Listen, I'm going to ask you about a couple of tracks because it'll lead to other things. Too Far Gone. I just dug the hell. And that Too Far Gone set up a thing where I went, wait a minute. These are stories that he's telling, mostly looking back over his shoulder, but they're stories. They're chapters in a book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what? I think that it was all born of, because I had so much time during the pandemic, and we have a little country place north of the city, and I would spend days up there each week. And so there was no timetable. I mean, whatever timetable just kept going away. And so I could finish the stories like you're finishing a short story. So I wasn't rushed. I wasn't trying to just create a sound. And Too Far Gone is from the time I spent in the Yukon. And that would have been in the mid 70s. And it was not lawless, but it was a different sense of law up there, right? In those days, you could drink and drive, but it was on the honor system. You couldn't be drunk and drive, but you could drink and drive.
You left, but it stayed with you, right? Yukon. And
that's the whole point of the song is I actually, at the end of that summer, I actually contemplated staying and not going back to university. And the whole trip, like going up there, first time I'd ever experienced the midnight sun, the people that were up there, because people go a long way to get away from what they've considered to be the constrictions of cities and towns and normal life. And then even leaving, like hitchhiking across to the ferries, at Skagway, that was the border, the US border was an honor system. You were supposed to go into the house and check in, but since we were late for the ferry, we just got on the ferry and then we were in America. So different times. And the whole experience was something that's very impactful for me.
I'll tell you what I think about these songs in just a minute, because it's kind of, they've had a chance to work their magic on me. Impossible, I knew I was going to like, since I knew some of the people involved, John Mann. I spent an entire spring, summer on stage with Jill Daum and a two-hander. So I can say I know that part of the family. But you're really writing about their son.
Mm-hmm. I obviously have had a lot to do with John over the years, a lot, like way back early days of them. And, you know, as a sidebar, they're the reason I have a wine collection, because they came here when they were re-signing with Warner, and they drank every single bottle I'd collected from all over the place. And I realized you can't just buy one of each, because people like Jeffrey and John will come over. But when I heard that John had Alzheimer's, and as that went through, and I got to know Jill quite a bit. And my wife's an actor; she's an actor, and there's a lot of camaraderie there. And I thought of how difficult it was to be losing your husband like that. Then when I heard that their son had some struggles and lived on the street for a while, I thought, you know, how much trouble can you put in one person's life and still end up like Jill, still end up positive and lovely and grateful. And it, you know, it's that old adage, like, you're only as happy as your least happy child. And she somehow managed to stay positive throughout all this. And so that was, you know, that was what it was all about. And their son actually wrote me a note about it, because I obviously ran this all by them to make sure it was okay to tell this story. And he said, I understand that this is about a parent's undying love for a child. And so I took that as an endorsement that it was okay to tell this story.
Learn to Live Alone. I saw the Jen Grant video in the falling snow. First of all, she's got a career as a director if she wants it, but she has her own career. Learning to Live Alone is about the time and space that you spend away from Rena, your wife, and the relationship. It's the balance in the relationship.
Oh, for sure. Like, I think that it starts out as sort of a comedic telling of the story, because I always say that, you know, the basis of a long-term relationship is for the other person to go away occasionally. And I talk about, you know, when we started this when we were young, because when we moved to New York, Rena used to go home for the whole summer because she worked at the film festival on the booklet. And so you know, the first year she went, it's like, okay, well, we're just pretty new to living together. And then the second year and the third year is like, this is getting harder and harder. But, you know, you survive and it's fine. But I think that we have had that relationship, which is unique, I think, to people that travel a lot, certainly in the entertainment industry. It's unique. But I've always admired couples that are close but have independent lives. And it's what we look at in our kids and see, you know, like, don't give up your independence. Don't become blended. Don't become one. Anyway, that's just my opinion. And I'm sure that lots of people think differently, but that's the basis of Learn to Live Alone, is that you only have to do this for a while, but you do have to do it. You have to be independent and not with that other person, and know they're coming back.
It will become apparent. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's another song that really had a profound effect on me, which is Torn.
Yeah.
I'll just let you quickly tell that story or the setting for because I want to play the song.
Well, there's a few songs on the record. The one that I did with Greg, Everyday Angels, Torn. There's a few songs that I wanted to affirm my gratitude for and my love of life. And the whole point of Torn is like, I'm not torn. I understand things can be difficult. And there's a verse in there that I kind of wrote for Greg, as that, I can't remember, cold as ice. That's how the world seems sometimes. It's something about things changing no matter what you do. You know, like Greg, my buddy, is very, very in love with the 70s. Like, if he could just go back and be in the 70s and be in Montreal, be a Montreal Canadiens fan, that's what he'd like. And you know, that happens to everybody, that the world changes around us and not always for the better. But I wanted to reaffirm that regardless of all those things, that I was not torn about my love of life. I think we're incredibly lucky to be living the life we live. And even like personally, the life I live, I'm very lucky. But I'm just in general, you know, there are a lot of troubles in the world, undoubtedly, but we still have this beauty around us. And so that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I think I have time for one more track I want to talk about. Holding it down. Well, Father's Day's coming up, and I think it's in reference to your father. That's a very strong song, very strong vocal, really great conviction in your voice.
My dad was, my dad was very typical of his era. Born in the 20s, World War II pilot.
Yeah.
Came out, went to Queen's Engineering. As he said, they sure raised the standards after they let me in. Then came out, did this job, got married to my mom, had kids, did all these things kind of by rote. I'm not sure that it's exactly what my dad would have chosen for his life. My dad always had a certain level of fatalism, which was appealing to us, but also scary to us as kids. He's a pretty stoic person. And when my parents split up, I think my dad it just turned him upside down. I think that he really didn't think this would ever happen to him. And my dad used to love driving. That's sort of like, there's that thing about him driving to the East Coast. He used to just get in his car and he'd be gone for days. He'd just drive to North Carolina. And I don't know what he did. Maybe he knew people down there, or maybe he just drove. And I think that the latter is true. I think my dad liked time alone. And I think he felt like the things that happened to him, good and bad in his life, were always going to happen. When I heard my dad had cancer, which is how he passed, I phoned him up. I said, I'm so sorry. And I'm like on the verge of tears. And he said, that's okay. I expected it. I was like, you expected it? Jesus. But that's who he was. And I don't think, even as I was writing the song, I was fully aware until about halfway through that I was writing about my dad. But that holding it down and, always rolling and always holding it down, that was my dad. Like, just keep going. My dad was a very charismatic, good looking guy. And I don't think anybody would have assumed that he had the kind of internal turmoil that he had.
In the 3 minutes I have left, I'm just looking at these notes. I love the fact that you can look back like this. And because I did, when I wrote my book about just my life in general, I had to go back and look at pictures to remember things in my life that should have been immediately in front of me.
Right.
It's going back and mining those memories is pretty good. For a songwriter, it's fantastic. It's gold. And sometimes you don't want to go back. Sometimes there's things that you just want to leave best left alone. I thank you for opening your heart to us for the 6th time now, and giving us music that we can carry on into the day and the night.
No, it's very sweet. It's very sweet. And, the songwriter has an advantage over the memoirist in that I don't have to be entirely factual.
Yeah, that's true.
I can change things I didn't like in the past. So, but thank you. There's very kind words about the record. I appreciate it.
And your tour dates. Now, can I talk to you about your tour dates?
Yeah, sure.
October the 30th, Jack Singer. November 3rd, Red Deer. November 4th, Lethbridge. The 6th in Banff. 7th in the Winspear in Edmonton. The 17th, the 12th at the Orpheum, November 12th, Orpheum. The McPherson, the 13th, just down the road. And then you drive right by the house to head for Parksville on the 14th. I expect we will be lunch or at least a coffee.
That'd be great. That would be great.
And then November 27, Massey Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious. This is just a wonderful, it's astonishing. And I've touched on this quite a bit. The balance that you found between your solo life and and Greg and Blue Rodeo. There's a lot of bands can't do it. A lot of artists can't do it. A lot of humans can't do it. You've done it. It's quite remarkable.
Well, thanks. I think it also is very dependent on, we talked to Greg earlier, but it's also very dependent on everybody being comfortable with everybody stretching out. And I think that certainly is the case in Blue Rodeo, that, Greg does a lot of recording out at his place and people do recording and play with other people. And I think it suits us very well.
And you're going to be playing Taz. Is there wine this year? Is Cuddy wine coming out this year?
You know, I got to find out. There should be. There should be. It's about time. I think that the cash is gone. Not you know, like the CACHE is gone. But I hope so. I
Let me
like
say
to think
goodbye.
so.
Let me say goodbye.